city, a mature city like ours, is going to thrive, we have to grow our own. We have to nurture the company and help them along as best as we can, and allow the creativity to flow.
There are literally hundreds of startups in Indianapolis. There are a couple of thousand individuals who raise their hand and say they are part of the Indianapolis startup environment. Our friends at Verge regularly host events with hundreds of people that attend and hundreds of people that are left on wait lists to attend. But the one glaring omission was there was no sense of space or place in Indy. And through a lot of hard work and generosity and vision, it came into existence. So thank you all for your support.
Our whole economy is built around a startup mentality and attitude, and we really need to step our game up to the next level. And so that's what Startup America is all about. How do we step up our startup game? Because the rest of the world is catching up. We're not falling behind, they're just figuring it out. And that's good, but it also means that we should be the leaders that we are and bring our game to the next level. And it has to happen all across the country. Every city in America was built by crazy entrepreneurs who showed up and saw something nobody else did. And they built something, whether it's here in Indianapolis or it's in Chicago or Nashville or St. Louis or anywhere else in the country. That's the story of American, not only innovation, but what separates a startup out from just an innovation is you're building something around it. It's not enough to just have a good idea. You've got to build a team. You've got to accomplish and create something of value that other people would like to pay for. One of my first questions to most entrepreneurs is, who's your customer? And I define customer as the person who's paying for whatever it is that you're doing. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's your user, which in an environment where you want to be ad supported, you better be thinking about who your advertisers are, not just who your users are. So what we've done at Startup America is to focus on startups. We define them as young companies that are focused on growth and they're sort of led by founders who don't know how to do anything else. We look at those young companies as really critical to the startup economy because companies less than 5 years old have created all the net new jobs in the last 30 years. So, Mayor, you're right on the right track. We want Indianapolis to be a fantastic place to thriving economy. You really need to have at least a part of the strategy be focused on these young firms because they're the ones that are driving. It's a messy business. How many founders are in the room here? Right. Okay. You know, it's a messy, ugly process. It's got its ups and downs to it. But one of the things we focus on with these young companies is the company may decide to go away, but the founders don't. And so if you're encouraging that frothy, messy part out there of the startup economy, those founders will just do it again, right? They learn a bunch. It's an educational front. You know, it's got its price to it. Most of the price is of ego. But by being wrong or making a mistake, you learn from it. And there's no way to be a startup without usually facing the barrel of missing payroll next week to really motivate you to make that pivot or do that change. So we're focused on those startups. We're really focused on 3 things to help startups. For anybody who's starting a company or knows somebody starting a company, you can join Startup America. It's free, and you get access to $1.2 billion in in-kind resources from 50 different companies, from Microsoft, Dell, Intuit, American Express, Dun & Bradstreet, Ernst & Young. You can take advantage of a whole set of tools that are available to you. We also have a community from around the country. We have thousands of startups that are at different stages of their development that are all communicating with each other, and we're bringing experts into that community so that you can get access to VCs from all around the country to ask them questions about everything from term sheets to what's a warrant to, you know, I think I might be getting screwed here. You know, how do you think? What do you think about it? To pitch coaching. Every week we have a pitch coach that'll listen to a pitch that you've got and give you feedback on it. So you've got a whole community that we've built. And then what we do is we try to highlight and celebrate the amazing startups that are happening all around the country. Because one of the things that we need to do a better job of nationally is telling the stories of the companies that are in market. There's a real misunderstanding of startups. There's a sense that they're small businesses that somehow got big. When in reality, there are small businesses and there are large businesses and there are startups. And startups act differently, that we think differently, we have a different stance or attitude about us, and it's a cultural different. What we need to do is tell the stories, not just of the breakout big companies that recently were startups, but but we actually need to tell the stories of the startups that are in the market, the companies that are being built right now, because it's through that storytelling that other people will take the risk to maybe join a startup, to take the risk to not get a real job, which these are real jobs because that's where the jobs are getting created. But we need to tell that story through life.